Hi everybody, welcome back to Lions and Warriors Return to Forever. I'm Emily Orkin and we are picking it up at chapter 29 of Ezekiel. In the 10th year, in the 10th month, in the 12th day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, set thy face against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and prophesy against him and against all Egypt. Speak and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against thee, Egypt, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, which hath said, My river is my own, and I have made it for myself. Talking about the serpent, the devil, Satan in the river, the great dragon. I'll read that again. Behold, I am against thee, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, the great dragon that lieth in the midst of his rivers, of Egypt's rivers, which hath said, My river is my own, and I have made it for myself. God doesn't like that when anyone claims that God's creation is their own. But God continues, But I will put hooks in thy jaws, and I will cause in the hooks of the jaws of the dragon, and I will cause the fish of thy rivers to stick unto thy scales of the dragon, and I will bring thee up out of the midst of thy rivers, and all the fish of thy rivers shall stick unto thy scales, the dragon scales, and I will leave thee thrown into the wilderness, and all the fish of thy rivers thou shalt fall upon the open fields. Thou shalt not be brought together nor gathered. I have given thee the dragon and all the fish that are stuck to his scales. I have given thee for meat to the beasts of the field and to the fowls of the heaven, the birds of the heaven. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am the Lord, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel, which I think means they've been like an evil influence on Israel, the ones that are goofing off and not living in the will of God. They have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. Does it? Staff of reed. This was by inciting Israel to resist and rebel against Assyria by promises of help which failed. The house of Israel. So the companion Bible in the margins kind of explains things when you don't understand what it says here. Let's read that again. This is staff of reed. Staff of reed. This was by inciting Israel to resist and rebel against Assyria. And Assyria is like affiliated with the devil, Satan. The Assyrian was like, I think it might have even been like the devil, Satan. It was affiliated with that at the very least. So again, staff of reed. This was by inciting Israel to resist and rebel against Assyria by promises of help, which failed. Let's read that again. And all the inhabitants of Egypt shall know that I am the Lord, because they have been a staff of reed to the house of Israel. When they took hold of thee by thy hand, thou didst break and rend all their shoulder. And when they leaned upon thee, thou breakest and madest all their loins to be at stand. To be at stand, to come to a stand or to a halt. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I will bring a sword upon thee, and cut off man and beast out of thee. Still talking about Egypt. And the land of Egypt shall be desolate and waste, and they shall know that I am the Lord, because he hath said, the river is mine, and I have made it. The Assyrian has said that. And so God's going to punish Egypt because they were in on it too. Behold, therefore, I am against thee and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. I don't know. I feel like I haven't clarified that all the way. Does it sound like Egypt was using the Israelites for their gain? The staff of reed. This was by inciting Israel to resist and rebel against Assyria by promises of help, which failed. Okay, so I guess that does mean that they're guilty of duping Israel. Behold, therefore I am against thee, and against thy rivers, and I will make the land of Egypt utterly waste and desolate, from the tower of Syene even unto the border of Ethiopia. No foot of man shall pass through it, nor foot of beast shall pass through it, neither shall it be inhabited 40 years. And I will make the land of Egypt desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities among the cities that are laid waste shall be desolate 40 years. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. Yet thus saith the Lord God, at the end of 40 years will I gather the Egyptians from the people whither they were scattered, and I will bring again the captivity of Egypt, and will cause them to return into the land of Pathros, which I think, let's see. Therefore they could not be with the people from north. He will gather. So it says here in my companion, therefore the Egyptians could not be the people known as gypsies. 14. Okay. I'm reading the margin here in my companion Bible. With verse 13, will I gather, therefore they could not be the people known as gypsies. Bring again, turn the fortunes, bring again the captivity of Egypt, or the Egyptians captives. Note the discrimination shown in these prophecies. Some were never to be restored, others were to be resuscitated. So Pathros is the upper or southern Egypt. Okay. And then it says here, when we continue on to verse 18, Nebuchadnezzar caused his army, that this was fulfilled, is shown by another book, the Egypt of the Hebrews, who quotes an inscription which described this campaign which took place in the 37th year of his reign. He defeated Pharaoh Amasis. Head was made bald, probably from the helmet worn in so long a war. Shoulder was peeled from bearing arms so long, from carrying around weapons. It's going to make their shoulders peeled. So that'll make sense when I read on in these continuing verses here. So let's back up. Yes, yet thus saith the Lord God, at the end of 40 years will I gather the Egyptians from the people whither they were scattered, and I will bring, so that we know that they're not going to be gypsies, and I will bring again the captivity of Egypt. After he's scattered, I'm going to bring you back together, but you're going to go into captivity. And I will bring again the captivity of Egypt, and will cause them to return into the land of Pathros in Egypt, into the land of their habitation, and they shall be there a base kingdom, a low kingdom. It shall be the basest, the lowest of the kingdoms, neither shall it exalt itself any more above the nations, for I will diminish them, and they shall no more rule over the nations. And Egyptian has never been like a big nation again after, ever since, they were all great with their pyramids and everything. It shall be the basest of the kingdoms, neither shall it exalt itself any more above the nations, for I will diminish them, and they shall no more rule over the nations. And it shall be no more the confidence of the house of Israel when they shall look after them, but they shall know that I am the Lord. I think he's saying the Egyptians are going to know it, the Israelites are going to know it, because Israel's going to look at it and say, they're not so special anymore. And it came to pass in the 27th year, 27, in the first month, in the first day of the month, the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus. And Tyrus was like a great kingdom, but it's affiliated with Satan, the devil. Nebuchadnezzar was king of Babylon, but Babylon was bad too, so it's like God lets the evil eat their own. He has the evil do his evil, or, punishing, God lets the enemies punish, just like we'll read all through the Old Testament that's how God operates. That he lets the evil destroy their own. Son of man, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, caused his army to serve a great service against Tyrus. Every head was made bald, and it said here, probably from wearing a helmet for so long. Every shoulder was peeled from carrying these weapons around for so long. Yet had he no wages, nor his army for Tyrus, for the service that he had served against it. They didn't prosper fighting against Tyrus. They didn't make any money or gain. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I will give the land of Egypt unto Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and he shall take her, Egyptians' multitude, and take her spoil, and take her prey, P-R-E-Y, prey, and it shall be the wages for his army. So he's going to let Babylon prosper off the back of Egypt, because he's punishing Egypt here. I have given him, Nebuchadnezzar, the land of Egypt for his labor wherewith he served against it, because they wrought. What does wrought mean? Does it say? I don't know. I'm not going to stop what I'm doing to figure out what rot, W-R-O-U-G-H-T is. I have given him, Nebuchadnezzar, the land of Egypt for his labor wherewith he served against it, because they wrought for me, said the Lord God. In that day will I cause the horn of the house of Israel. Horn represents power, strength. In that day will I cause the horn of the house of Israel to bud forth, to be big and strong, and I will give thee the opening of the mouth in the midst of them, and they shall know that I am the Lord. Now this is chapter 30 of Ezekiel. The word of the Lord came again unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Son of man, prophesy and say, Thus saith the Lord God, Howl ye, woe, worth the day, like woe. For the day is near, even the day of the Lord is near, a cloudy day. It shall be the time of the heathen, where he's going to let these evil people run wild. And the sword shall come down upon Egypt, and great pain shall be in Ethiopia, which is right next to Egypt. And great pain shall be in Ethiopia, when the slain shall fall in Egypt, and they shall take away her multitude, and her foundations shall be broken down. Ethiopia and Libya and Lydia and all the mingled people and Shub. Does it say what Shub? It's a place there. And Shub and the men of the land that is in league shall fall with them by the sword. Shall fall with them by the sword. So that whole territory is going to get wiped out by Nebuchadnezzar. Thus saith the Lord God, they also that uphold Egypt, the people, everyone back in Egypt, they're in big trouble. Thus saith the Lord, they also that uphold Egypt shall fall, and the pride of her power, Egypt, shall come down. From the tower of Syene, which is in Egypt, shall they fall in it by the sword, saith the Lord. So I guess he's saying that it's going to be Nebuchadnezzar and the army of Babylon is going to take them down by the sword. And they shall be desolate in the midst of the countries that are desolate, and her cities shall be in the midst of the cities that are wasted. And they shall know that I am the Lord when I have set a fire in Egypt, and when all her helpers, Egypt's helpers, shall be destroyed. In that day shall messengers go forth from me in ships to make the careless Ethiopians afraid, and great pain shall come upon them, as in the day of Egypt. For lo, it cometh. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also make the multitude of Egypt to cease by the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, and his people with him. The terrible of the nations shall be brought to destroy the land, and they shall draw their swords against Egypt and fill the land with the slain. There are going to be dead bodies all over the place. And I will make the rivers dry. God will. And I will make the rivers dry and sell the land into the hand of the wicked. And I will make the land waste and all that is therein by the hand of strangers. I, the Lord, have spoken it. Thus saith the Lord God, I will also destroy the idols We know how he feels about idols. And I will cause their images to cease out of Noph, N-O-P-H, which is in Egypt. And there shall be no more a prince of the land of Egypt. And I will put a fear in the land of Egypt. And I will make Pathros desolate, and I will set fire in Zoan, and I will execute judgments in No, which is another place in Egypt, N-O, No, and I will pour my fury upon them. I will pour my fury upon Sin, which is another place, S-I-N, another place in Egypt. I will pour my fury upon Sin, the strength of Egypt, and I will cut off the multitude of No, and I will set fire in Egypt. Sin shall have great pain, and No shall be rendered asunder, and Noph shall have distresses daily. The young men of Avon and of Pi-Beseth shall fall by the sword, and these cities shall go into captivity of Babylon. At Tahaphanes, another city. I'm not going to rack my brain trying to figure out how to pronounce it. At Tahaphanes also the day shall be darkened, and I shall break there the yokes of Egypt, and the pomp of her strength shall cease in her. As for her, a cloud shall cover her, and her daughters shall go into captivity. The daughters are probably like smaller little suburbs of Tahaphanes. Thus will I execute judgments in Egypt, and they shall know that I am the Lord. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 1st month, in the 7th day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, talking to Ezekiel, the prophet, saying, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and lo, it shall not be bound up to be healed, to put a roller, to bind it, to make it strong to hold the sword. It ain't be coming back. It isn't coming back from what God is taking Egypt down here. Again, Son of man, I have broken the arm of Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and lo, it shall not be bound up to be healed, to put a roller, to bind it, and make it strong to hold the sword. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, Behold, I am against Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and will break his arms, the strong, and that which was broken, and I will cause the sword to fall out of his hand, not even going to be able to defend himself. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and will disperse them through the countries. And I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and put my sword in his hand, in Nebuchadnezzar's hands. But I will break Pharaoh's arms, and he shall groan before him with the groanings of a deadly wounded man. But I will strengthen the arms of the king of Babylon, and the arms of Pharaoh shall fall down. And they shall know that I am the Lord, when I shall put my sword into the hand of the king of Babylon, and he shall stretch it out upon the land of Egypt. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and disperse them. And I will scatter the Egyptians among the nations, and disperse them among the countries. And they shall know that I am the Lord. Hey, kitty. And it came to pass in the now we're on chapter 31 of Ezekiel. And it came to pass in the 11th year, in the 3rd month, in the 1st day of the month, that the word of the Lord came unto me, Ezekiel, saying, Hey, little one, Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude. Whom art thou like in thy greatness? Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar in Lebanon with fair branches and with a shadowing shroud and of a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. So when God is referring to the Assyrian here, I'm pretty sure that the Assyrian, I'm pretty sure that the Assyrian was like referring to the devil, like the ultimate evil, Satan, the devil. Because when God is talking about the Assyrian here, he's going to say that he was like the greatest of where he was at in the kingdom that he stood for, which is the evil kingdom. And he's going to make reference to the Assyrian, the Assyrians past, before this time period, like way back in the Garden of Eden. And he's going to talk about when the Assyrian was in the Garden of Eden. And you'll be able to, now that I've given you the heads up on this, you'll be able to see that in these next several verses here. That's what he is referring to, and when just, think about when Eve, which eventually we'll get to the very early Genesis, is going to be duped by the beauty of the serpent in the Garden of Eden. So he's going to describe the Assyrian when he was the serpent in the Garden of Eden, coming up here. Okay, he's talking to Ezekiel here. Behold, and he's telling, again, backing up, he's just told Ezekiel to address Pharaoh and all the Egyptians. We'll back up. Son of man, speak unto Pharaoh, king of Egypt, and to his multitude, saying, whom art thou like in thy greatness? Who are you like? Who are you like? Who do we compare you to? That's what God is saying, asking Ezekiel to ask the Egyptians. Who are you like? Who's your greatness like? And he continues on. He's telling Ezekiel to tell this to the Pharaoh and the Egyptians. Behold, the Assyrian was a cedar, great tree in Lebanon, with fair branches and with a shadowing shroud and a high stature, and his top was among the thick boughs. Cedars are very tall trees. The waters made him great. The Assyrian, the devil. The waters made him great. The deep is like, spiritually speaking, where the evil existed. The deep set him up on high, and her rivers running round about his plants, and sent out her little rivers unto all the trees of the field. Therefore his height was exalted above all the trees of the field, and his boughs were multiplied, and his branches became long because of the multitude of waters when he shot forth. All the fowls, the birds of heaven, all the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs, and under his branches did all the beasts of the fields bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations. Prince of the air, prince of this world. Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by the great waters. Those waters nourished that great cedar tree, the Assyrian, which is the devil. The cedars in the Garden of Eden Here we go, Garden of Eden. The cedars, the other cedar trees in the Garden of Eden could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches, nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him. The Assyrian, the devil, the serpent in the garden. Nor any tree in the garden of God was like unto him in his beauty. I, God, have made him, the devil, the Assyrian, fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all the trees of Eden that were in the garden of God envied him. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height. Now he's back to talking to Egypt and Pharaoh again, after he's reminded him of what the Assyrian is really about. It was God that gave him his beauty. But that wasn't good enough for him. He wanted to be equal with God. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, because thou, still talking to Egypt and Pharaoh here, therefore, thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he has shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height, I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. The mighty one of the heathen is the devil, is Satan. So he's saying, you think you're big and tough, Egypt, Pharaoh? I'm delivering you over to the king of the heathen, which ain't you. Therefore, thus saith the Lord God, because thou hast lifted up thyself in height, and he hath shot up his top among the thick boughs, and his heart is lifted up in his height. Heart lifted up in his height means he thinks he's hot, you know what. Lifted up, and his heart is lifted up in his height. He's got an ego here. I have therefore delivered him into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen. He shall surely deal with him. You think, I'm rough. I'll let the devil deal with you. I have therefore delivered him, Egypt, into the hand of the mighty one of the heathen, the devil. He shall surely deal with him. I have driven him out for his wickedness. You think you're bad? And strangers, the terrible of the nations, have cut him off and have left him upon the mountains and in all the valleys. His branches are fallen, and his boughs are broken by all the rivers of the land, and all the people of the earth are gone down from his shadow and have left him. They've deserted Egypt. Upon his ruins shall all the fowls of the heaven remain, and all the beasts of the field shall be upon his branches, to the end that none of all the trees by the waters exalt themselves for their height. To the end that none of all the trees by the waters exalt themselves for their height. Nobody else is acting like this over there that I created. Neither shoot up their top among the thick boughs, neither their trees stand up in their height, all that drink water. For they are all delivered unto death, to the nether parts of the earth. The nether parts of the earth. Let's see if it says anything about that. The nether parts. I just got 12 to 14. Doesn't say. The nether parts. Nether parts to me seems like down under. Like hell. They've been delivered unto death, to the nether parts of the earth, in the midst of the children of men, with them that go down to the pit. The pit is hell, the pit of hell. Thus saith the Lord God, in the day when he went down to the grave, I caused the mourning, a crying, a sadness, I covered the deep. The deep is like that place where all the evil spirits lurk. Okay, in the day when he went down to the grave, I caused a mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I restrained the floods thereof, and the great waters were stayed, and I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted for him. I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall, when I cast him down to hell with them that descend into the pit, and all the trees of Eden, the choice and the best of Lebanon, all that drink water, shall be comforted in the nether parts of the earth. They also went down into hell with him unto them that be slain with the sword, and they that were his arm, that dwelt under his shadow in the midst of the heathen. So the devil and all of his minions and everyone that followed him, they're all going down to the pit. To whom art thou thus like in glory and greatness among the trees of Eden? Is he still talking to Pharaoh in Egypt here? To whom art thou thus like in glory and in greatness among the trees of Eden? Yet shalt thou be brought down with the trees of Eden unto the nether parts of the earth. Thou shalt lie in the midst of the uncircumcised with them that be slain by the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his multitude, saith the Lord God. So we'll stop right there at 37 minutes because, that's long enough for a video. But I think we've heard quite a bit in this video today about what happened to Egypt and Pharaoh, and what God likened Pharaoh and Egypt. They're like the Assyrian, and they're all going down to the pit. So we'll continue, because my goal here is to get people to get out of the goat group and into the sheep group. It's going to be so much better. It's going to be so much easier. Oh, I love you guys. Thanks for joining me. And I still got my shiny amber holiday shirt on because I don't want you to forget that Ezekiel told us from the waist up, God, it was in the image of a man in he's like shining amber. So maybe God kind of looks like this, like his skin in the likeness of a man. And from the waist down, he is fire, and fire all around him. Oh, I can't wait to meet God. I can't wait to meet Jesus. Okay, we'll end there for today. Thanks for joining me, Emily Orchid at Lions and Warriors Return to Forever. And if you find this video helpful today, please hit the like button. And until next time, God bless you. Have a wonderful day.